Well, hello, family, and welcome to another Coach Love Explores. You know what? I feel like I want to do my Steve Harvey and say, I got another good one for you today. but, but I really do. I really, really do. I have some wonderful women, some wonderful authors for you. And we're going to talk about something that is deeply personal to all of us. As a matter of fact, the very first guest I'm going to bring up, she's an author, she's an RN, and she's also a survivor of teen, teen domestic violence. How you doing, Miss Saundra?
I'm doing fabulous, Coach Love. How are you?
I'm wonderful. You know what? I love your poster. What is that? What is that called? That thing that's in the back of you with your
It's a
beautiful face on
banner.
it? Oh, your banner.
Um,
So I love that. I appreciate that. That's very lovely. What you have that because of your book? What's the name of your book?
the name of my book is "Make It Stop: A Young Woman's Guide to Overcome or Prevent Dating Abuse."
Mm, dating abuse. You have some expertise in that.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Hmm. And I'm just going to ask you right off, how old were you when the abuse started?
15,
Wow, wow,
15.
wow, wow. Okay. Coming to the stage is Miss Reba Hobbs Bell. That's okay. I'm
Hi.
gonna get you together. And coming to the stage, Miss Sharmin Smith. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
All right. Now, I'm going to tell you, Reba was probably caught a little bit off guard because I asked a question in the pregame show. How about that? And I said, do you know of any women who experienced domestic abuse in the Bible? So I'm going to throw that question out there. You know, I barely got it off my tongue. Reba was like, "Hold up."
I
I still
googled it. I
haven't.
was doing the
I
same
still
thing.
haven't
I
got it
googled it as well.
yet. Good.
Rita, you and I
I
are
mean,
alike. I
I'm
mean, you
like, it
asked
was
the
a good
question. I
question though.
didn't
You
have
never
the
thought
answer off
about
the top of
that.
my head, but I said, "Oh, let me Google it and see."
So did
yes,
you Google it,
quick
Sandra?
through the draw. Yes.
Say what
Thank
now?
you,
Did
Maddie.
you
Yes,
Google
there are
it,
four
Sean?
queens here. Thank you. Thank
What
you.
I
Thank you, madam.
found was it says that there were hints that Jeroboam is an abuser, include.
Hmm.
Let me see. Let me get back. Yeah, hints that the wife of Jeroboam experienced abuse, which included isolation,
Hmm.
passivity, instant obedience,
Mm.
and her lack of response to Jeroboam and Ahijah. Ahaji.
Hmm.
So yeah, they say there are hints.
Okay. Maddie said his dad's a pastor, so he's going to ask his dad. I appreciate that very much, sir. I appreciate that. Um, so, Reba Bell, darling, you have a whole book. The whole book
Yeah.
is about your experience with abuse.
Yes.
And what is that
Um,
called?
it's called A Blessing in Disguise, and it's a guide
Uh-huh.
to help and coach women and men that have been domestically abused in relationships or former past relationships, and how to help them heal. So pretty much what it is the after part of the abuse. On it's my personal story on how I healed after abuse, and it's a guide to help coach people through it and how to get out of a victim mindset. That's why I keep telling people, because a lot of times we don't know that we're still living in a victim mindset, even though we're not getting abused anymore.
Now that's really important because, and you know, I made that idea part of the title. We have to change our mind,
Says
or we will A, continue being a abuser, or B, attract abuse.
Abusers. Exactly.
Hmm. Now, Miss Charmin, you have made it a mission to educate and illuminate where you find abuse, particularly narcissism. That is just part of your platform. Tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing.
So have
I am an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and I have attracted abusive relationships my entire life because I really didn't know any better. All the relationships that I've been in may have started out wonderful, but then they progressed and they managed to take on very similar patterns. And as the the public has become aware of narcissism and the narcissistic abuse patterns, there a lot of that has played into my personal escape pattern for leaving bad relationships, like one after another. And I spend a lot of my time helping women and men identify red flags, understanding the language that is surrounding the abuse, and helping them learn how to get away from it whenever possible. Domestic abuse has been around for longer than the Bible was here. Men and women have been abusing each other, most commonly men abusing women. But it has only been in the last 40 to 50 years since women have been given so many freedoms to attend college, to get their own money, to live and work on their own, that they've been able to go and study these abusive behaviors, name them, and teach other people how to identify them. You know, for years we talked about double standards. We talked about wanting equality, but we didn't understand what gaslighting was. We didn't know how to identify what love bombing was, the way people pretend to really care about you so much in the beginning so that they can suck you in and get you attached. And then once they have you hooked, they start to break you down in little ways so that they can establish dominance and control over you. I found myself in the cycle of abuse quite often, which is so common in abusive relationships. There is a pattern, it is consistent and documentable. There is a honeymoon phase where everything is great and wonderful, and then there is a buildup and an explosion. And in domestic violence relationships, that pattern repeats itself, and the honeymoon phase gets shorter and shorter. The buildup gets longer and longer, and the explosions get worse. While I was living in Kentucky and writing my book in 2014, the state of Kentucky came out with a 10-question checklist that they could ask any domestic abuse victim to determine how high their threat level is for murder by their significant other. And one of the things that they discovered is that anytime the abuse included choking, the victim was 10 times more likely to be murdered by their abuser. Just the choking aspect elevates your level of danger to such a level that even the police are warning you, once this has happened, you have to get away. It's very common when you're in a bad relationship. They're not all bad, they're not all good, they are not always beating you. It's part of that cycle of abuse and the honeymoon period, right? We go back and forth to these people, and leaving them is very hard. Most victims, most survivors attempt to leave their abusive partner 7 times before they get out. And leaving is a gift not everybody gets. Not everybody leaves an abusive relationship alive.
So hold on. I wanna ask Saundra. Saundra, you experienced abuse as a teenager.
As a teenager,
You
right?
you were 15 years old. How old were you before you recognized what happened to you to be abuse?
Um, I was 15, and it went
Okay.
off and on for a couple of years. Uh, like she says, you enter it, I love you. They're everything you ever thought it was. And the thing for me is, for our teens, you really don't know what love is.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you don't even know who yourself is. You're still trying to find out who you are and the
Mhm,
things you want.
mhm.
Um, but you have that peer pressure because all of your girlfriends, they've got boyfriends. When are you going to get a boyfriend? Where's your boyfriend? And then it's the thing, you don't want to be that third wheel, you want to fit in. You don't want to be the only one there without a boyfriend. And sometimes they don't even want you there if you don't
Yeah.
have a boyfriend, because it's sort of like, well, what are you going to be doing? We've got our boyfriends or whatever. So it's that wanting to fit in, wanting that to be liked by everybody. But when you have this guy that tells you, I love you, or you're pretty, and that's not something you're used to receiving from a man. Even though my father was in the home, he did love us. It wasn't an abusive environment I lived in. It wasn't a dysfunctional family that I came from. It was just that that was not the type of affection that my father showed. He showed it in other ways. But for me, it was just great to hear somebody say, "Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, you look good." And they're giving you all of this attention. And so, you start dating, and like, Sharmin said, everything is wonderful. You're on top of the world. And then all of a sudden you do something, say something, and it starts. They
Hmm.
explode. It could be that somebody cracked a joke and you laugh, but the joke was on them and they
Mhm.
didn't think it was funny.
Mhm.
Now, for me, I was never hit in front of people. So if we were in a group and that happened, he would sort of, haha, And the first time he looked at me, when something like that happened, my thought was, oh, he didn't find it as funny as the rest of us. And that was it. But once you got in that car, that was it.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
explosion was there. And it's, how dare you laugh at me? And it was like, well, you were laughing and everybody else, and to even speak back, it's almost like with your parents, you knew not to, if they told you one thing, you're like, well, no, it's not. No, you didn't talk back to your parents. So it was almost as if they became your parent, because when they, you started talking back to them, they were ready to hit you again and beat you.
Mm.
And the first time it happened, it was like, oh no, you're not gonna hit me, da da da. And then they're like, I'm sorry, I was just angry. That just, I was embarrassed, or they make some excuse. And because they tell you, I love you, it won't happen again, I'm sorry, did I hurt you? You dismiss it. And that's the first mistake. Because if it happens once, it's gonna happen again. And then they start getting you to the point where they're scared that you may tell somebody else, or somebody may notice something, or maybe they'll see a scar, or and they start questioning you about it. So then that's where that isolation started to come in for me. They wanted to always be with me, not necessarily with my friends, because like, oh, you need to be me. I just want to spend all of this time. So now you're thinking, oh, he really wants to spend time with just me without everybody around. Well, no, that's where he starts to isolate you and pull you away so nobody will see anything. So it's just like it's a cycle, and it just repeats itself over and over and over again. There was an instance when we were in the car together and he was hitting on me, and it was like, just let me out, because at that point it was like, I got to get out of here. I got to get away. And he would not pull over. And I said, just pull over now. I want to get out. I can't do this anymore. And he was like, he pulled over and he was like, okay. He said, I'll let you out. He said, but you won't make it home. And I just looked at him and I really didn't fully understand what he was saying at the time. He said, you're not going to make it home. He let me walk enough to get just far out enough in the car for him to speed that car up like he was going to hit me. And I had to jump over because I was on the sidewalk. I had to jump over into a yard, and he rolled down the window and he yelled at me. He says, I will run you down if you don't get back in this car. So you're on this street, call yourself walking. So what, I felt I didn't have another choice. Instead of maybe running to someone's door, knocking, saying, it's this crazy fool out here trying to run over me. I got back in the car.
Mhm.
Okay. Wow.
Yep, that's real common.
Wow.
They can dish it out, but they can't take it.
Right.
They're very sensitive. They're very insecure. They're
Very.
very sensitive, overly sensitive. They try to put on a big, brave front, but they punish you for every perceived slight. That with narcissists, there's really only two ways to handle them. You can flatter them or you can humiliate them. And if you humiliate them, they will destroy your character and reputation.
Yes.
They will tell lies against you and turn people against you. They're master manipulators. They know how to be charming when they want to be charming.
And when they
They
need to be.
that is right. They can turn it on and off like a flip of a switch. And it's scary to watch them go from this loving, compassionate, amazing person that you totally trusted to this terrifying monster that you're not sure what they're going to do to you next. You're not sure what they're going to hit you with. You're not
Right.
sure if they're going to run you over, if they're going to shoot you. And I found myself so miserable and depressed. I was ready to just die. There was no way out of it. And it is such a deep pain. It's so hard to escape. It's something that stays with you forever. And one of the things that I've come to notice, there is, that gut instinct. We all talk about how important it is to pay attention to your gut instinct. But there's almost an adrenaline rush that comes with meeting a narcissist for me. And I have learned to acknowledge those butterflies in the stomach as a warning. I used to think that was something really wonderful. I always had that relationship that feeling at the beginning of a relationship, and I associated that with love. But now what I see that is a warning from my body. Like, that is common sense leaving my body. I will put up with stupid stuff out of this one, and I will let this one mistreat me. I found myself making excuses for their poor behavior. They weren't always bad. They didn't mean it. They overreacted. I'm oversensitive. I've got problems. All women are crazy, right? I can't let go of my previous abuses from what some other man did to me, and he's not that bad. He's a good guy. It's the same lines over and over again. And then it ends in a terrible, tragic, terrifying way where it's just it's so unhealthy. It's so miserable. And I see it in so many families across the country. And I see children, especially teenagers, who are just learning to date. They don't have good role models. They don't have good communication skills. I don't think most people in this country have healthy adult intimate relationships. The male-female dynamic has been out of balance for so long. And it is a real challenge to try to expose the bad behaviors, teach people how to feel strong enough to leave and then be alone and try to heal. I'm really interested, Reba, how you managed to break free from the victim mindset. One of the things that I learned along the process was, I was such a strong individual. I was such a strong personality. When somebody would hear about my abuse, they'd say, "But you're so strong. You'll be fine. You can overcome it. You're a survivor." And I jumped straight from acknowledging my abuse to being a survivor of my abuse, or even learning about my abuse, because I didn't even know about some of my abuse until I confronted somebody who told me more than I knew. And so I had to deal with this. And I kind of had to get to the point where I had to embrace being a victim before I could become a survivor. But I recognize that victim mentality kind of hangs around a little bit in everything. How did you break that?
Well, my number one thing is go back to what you said about being a victim and then being a survivor. When you're a victim and you realize that you're still a victim, you're standing on no one will love me the way that the other person loved me. Some of the stuff that Saundra has said, you make excuses. You get in the next relationship, and I'm just gonna talk about my personal experience, and I talked about this before in my interview with Coach Love. When I realized I was still in a victim mindset, it was dating my husband, and I was realizing that I was trying to hinder what was going to come because of what I went through. So I was trying to stop things from happening that I thought would happen, and then end up turning out later in the marriage and through separation later becoming an abuser to him too, verbally and emotionally, because it was more of I was trying to stop certain things that happened to me because of my past that I wasn't realizing that I was trying to stop real love from happening. So it was like not a reality. Also, what ended up getting me out of it was pretty much my relationship with God. Honestly, that's the truth. Um, I didn't want to see myself like that. I always seen myself, regardless of who I was with or who I wasn't with, as a powerful woman, as a strong woman, like you said. So I've always seen myself as someone viewed me as this. So I had to start viewing my own self as that. A lot of times we don't view ourselves as who people see us as. So we put on a face. And
Mhm.
so even though you may see me on camera as a strong woman, behind the scenes, I'm down on myself. I'm telling myself what I don't deserve, what I was doing. I'm telling myself what happened to me before because I accepted it to happen to me before. So I'm gonna make sure it don't happen to me again. Instead of saying, no, I deserve real love. No, I deserve a real relationship. No, I deserve real friendships, and on and on and on from that. I had to start self-absorbing myself with the Lord. Also, I had to get therapy. I coach therapy so much. I put it in my book, but I coach it on my lives because therapy. If you don't get therapy, it's just something you can't get over. Certain things you just can't get over without therapy. That's just what I vouch for. I vouch for therapy for anybody and everybody. And especially in our community, our Black community, we don't go to therapists enough because we gotta think the old saying, oh, either we're crazy or somebody gonna think something about us. But I realized that therapy was a way for me to let out what I was thinking about myself and
You
me
want to
to
know something?
realize.
I want to pause for a
Hmm.
second, and I want to say this. You hear this thing called therapy, but
Hmm.
a lot of people don't know what therapy is. They
Yeah.
think it's just talking. Um, and,
Yeah.
Like,
and
what kind of therapy are we talking about? There's a lot of different types.
Yeah.
right, and then what is the value of therapy? I'm going to start,
Hmm.
and I'm just going to say this. One of the things that you get from therapy is the ability to hold yourself accountable
Accountable.
for your part.
Mhm.
That in itself is
Come on,
worth
coach love.
it's worth going, because if you can't hold yourself accountable in your own mind's eye, then you lose so much.
Yes.
Well, I think that's one of the issues. A lot of times when we get out of those relationships, we are angry. I know when I got out of mine, I was angry. And my
Mm.
thing is, I wanted to hurt somebody. Uh, People laugh at me now because I was like, I was in a place where it was like, how can I find a hit man to take him out?
Oh my goodness.
That's how bad
Oh
I was
wow.
hurting. It was like, I need him to feel what I felt. I need him to go through what I went through. Can I find somebody who just beat him up and then just take him out? I just
Mm.
need him to suffer. That's how I felt. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, I I guess I never had professional counseling therapy.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, After I got out of my abusive relationship and I was getting myself together, it was like I was more like Reba. This is not going to happen to me again. I'm done with men. Don't need them unless
Hmm.
God Himself come down from heaven and put him in my lap.
Mhm.
I'm done. I'm over
Mhm.
it. Will not do it again because I will
Mhm.
not allow myself. So I had a wall up. But while I was in school, going to nursing school, I knew I had to deal with some things, but did not have the finances, did not have the assurance, or really didn't know where I could go and look for help. But I knew that I had to find out what made Saundra tick. I needed to build my self esteem and my confidence in myself to make decisions, what I felt like would be the right decisions. So I dropped out of nursing school for a whole year and took nothing but psychology classes.
Yes.
And through
Mm.
those psychology classes and talking one on one with my psychology professors, and I guess that was my so called professional counselor,
It
got
was.
over a lot of different things and realized what made Sandra tick,
Yeah.
what I needed. Um, I learned that, I did deserve better because I was worthy of something. I had worth. And that was something that I did. I always felt like, why does everybody else get the breaks and I don't? Why did all of this happen to me? But even though I went through that, I kept that wall up. I mean, there would be guys, who would, hey, I want to talk to you. No, not interested. And it'd be just that blank, and I keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
Did not want to be bothered with any guys because I didn't feel I could trust them. And I was still angry. And I knew I had to get rid of this anger.
Anger. Yes.
And the
Yes.
only way I got rid of this anger was I was talking to one of my a friend, and she was like, "You're always angry. It seems like you're mad at the world." She says, "I don't know if you're mad at a person or you're mad at yourself or somebody has done something to you." And she says, "But it's bubbling inside." And I say, "I'm
Mm.
really angry." And she says, "Let me tell you." She says, she has asked me, "Let me ask you a question." She says, if it's a person that you're angry at, she says, do you think that they're spending as much time thinking
Mhm.
about you or worrying about what you're doing and how angry you are
Yeah.
as you are with them? And I had to
Mhm.
think about that thing. I had to think about it. And I had to honestly answer her and say, probably not. They've probably moved on. And she
Mhm.
says, so why do you allow every minute of every day for that person to consume that much time within your mind and in your life? And
You
that
go.
was an eye opener for me.
We cannot allow people with dirty feet to walk through our brain.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we give them power. We give them too
Right.
much power. And I realized at that moment, I got to take my power back. But that's what started to help me to forgive because I knew the only way, first, I had to forgive me because when I started walking that journey of forgiveness, I
Come
realized
on.
I was more angry at me
Come on, son.
Mm.
than I
Come
was at
on.
him.
Right.
I was angry at me staying,
Mm-hmm.
allowing it, making
Yep.
excuses for him,
Yep.
Come on.
not telling
Yep.
anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I was angry at him, but I had to take ownership of the part I played
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes.
by
So I mean,
saying the excuses. So, once I could forgive me, then it was almost peaches and cream to do him. Not saying that it was easy and that it happened overnight, it's a process. But once I forgave me and I took ownership for the part that I played, everything else was just a matter of working through that process. And it was like, right now, don't wish him any ill will. Glad I didn't know how to get in contact with a hitman. Uh, I hope he's living his best life. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
it's a process. It's a process that you have to go through. So
Yeah.
I do recommend in my book, you know, you do get counseling. I'm like, Reba, you have to get it,
Yeah.
but and get it any kind of way you can. And I guess
Any
that
kind of
year
way. That's right.
psychology classes was what I needed to help me. Because in my book, I'm talking to teens. I want you to know what those red flags are. Is he trying to isolate you? Is he always asking you for your phone? Or if you lay your phone down as present, they're going through the phone. Do they want your passwords to your social media accounts? Do they feel as though you can
Mm.
only
Come on.
be with them? If you're with your friends, they've got to be there, or they really don't even want you around your friends. Those are the things you need to see. And it's not because they love you, it's because they want control of you. And
Yeah.
you also, I look at now where parents, it's so cute, Uh, I have someone who I know they've got like a 7 or 8 year old son. He's already talking about he kicked one girlfriend to the curb and he got another one. At 8 years old, you don't even know who you are. Why are you even allowing your child to talk that way? Because whether it's a boy or a girl, they have to learn who they are.
Yes.
They have
I'm
to
going to answer
determine,
that question.
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
gonna,
got a one on that one too.
yeah,
yes.
you got to determine who you are, what you want. I felt I made excuses because I really didn't know what it was I wanted.
Yep.
because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to, whether it was good love or bad love, because I didn't know the type of love I deserved. So that's another part of your healing. You've got to start loving yourself, doing things for you, making you that priority, knowing what you like, what you don't like, what you will tolerate, what you won't. What boundaries are you going to establish? And once that boundary is broken, I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah,
Because you're not
boundaries.
respecting me.
Mm-hmm. So, number one, I want to talk about this. The reason why we need counseling is because a paradigm shift has to happen.
Yes.
So, it's not that you need therapy, it's not that you need counseling, but you do need a paradigm shift. And those are the number one ways to make that happen. Because
Yes.
if you don't change your thinking, you will never change your doing.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes, Coach Love.
Yes.
Exactly. And it is as simple as that. And you have to give yourself an opportunity to blossom. You have to.
Amen to that.
Hmm. And now you mentioned there are a bunch of reasons, but the first one that came to my mind is why are these parents encouraging romance from their children?
They
And
think it's
then
nice.
I'm thinking about my son. I only had one boy. I have two girls, and this flirting little thing. My goodness.
Hmm.
I worked from home when he was one, and I was living in Mobile, Alabama when Katrina hit.
Oh, I lived in Mobile.
Oh, look at that. And I was working from home and I had a nanny service that would send a nanny to my house, a different nanny every day. And I was humiliated. I had to call the nanny service and I said, look, I don't know what to tell you. This is the lowest moment of my life. I do not want to encourage this out of a 13-month-old baby boy. But you got to stop sending ugly women. You got to stop sending ugly women. He is mean to the old women, and he is the nicest,
Oh
sweetest
my
baby
God.
ever to the pretty blondes.
Wow.
I managed to hook in with a sorority at the University of South Alabama, and a bunch of different girls came to the house, and he only liked pretty blondes. He was the meanest baby whenever somebody that he deemed not pretty showed up to the house. Like, he was a terror. I felt bad for them, and here he was. It was so apparent at such an early age. It blew my mind. Every time he would watch a television show, he identified with the same male character, the personality in every show. We've all seen Cheers. He loves Sam Malone. We've all seen Friends. Joey's his dude. How I Met Your Mother. Barney's his guy. It doesn't matter what show it is. This young man identifies with the same dude in every show. I'm terrified. Been spending my whole life trying to teach him how to act right. Thank goodness his girlfriend and I are on the same team because he's getting better. I certainly think he's a wonderful young man. He cares very much about protecting women, but I've been watching this male over sexualization since he could walk. It always surprised me, like, what is going on with boys that he already feels this way? And he was always such a flirt. He was in third grade. We were living in Lexington, Kentucky, and the school counselor called me. He was in fourth grade. The school counselor called me because she had received information about a plot to kill him. He had dated a girl. This is fourth grade. He had dated a girl. A new girl showed up. He broke up with her and dated the new girl. And the discarded girl was so mad. Her and her friend got a notebook together. They had a list of supplies they needed. They were going to get him, tie him up, and kill him. And the school counselor was afraid for his life. Like, this is just ingrained in us.
So I have a question. Number one, does your son still like pretty blondes? Is that his thing?
Yes, yes, yes. No, he likes all the girls. He likes all the flavors. He has dated them all.
Okay, I was just curious if that, if it still stayed. Now, does he still have that kind of personality type where he's a little bit crankier, or no, I should say a little bit nicer towards an attractive woman?
One of the things that I really focused on teaching him was the importance of investing in future relationships. I was an ugly duckling in middle school, and the boys were all incredibly mean to me. And I had a huge glow up between the summer between eighth grade and my freshman year of high school. And my first day of high school, the boys that had been mean to me for the last couple of years didn't know who I was and tried to be nice to me. And I wasn't remotely interested in them. So I made sure my son knew to be nice to all the girls because he didn't know which one was going to glow up right. And he didn't want to tick off a pretty one later. And he got a lot of grief from the boys in his school, in middle school, and the first couple of years of high school because they couldn't understand why he was being nice to the not so pretty girls. And he had to explain to them, you don't know who's going to glow up. You don't know how they're going to look next year. I'm not going to cut off a future relationship. So you can teach them, they'll pay attention and learn, but for boys, it all seems to be very sexual in its nature from an early age. At least that's my experience.
No, I just find that absolutely fascinating. I just do. I think it is absolutely fascinating. I'm attempting to share something with you. Can you? Okay, there we go. We can see it now. I can see you and it at the same time. So this was the cover. This was the cover page for our show today. And I want to just take a look at this picture. We see this woman, and she looks like she's might have been yelling at him. And the man, he has his, the hand over his ears, right? And then we have this other picture where this guy, he looks like he's looking at her with disgust, and she's all bruised up. Okay, I'm curious. How does this picture, and I really want to hear from Reba, how does this picture hit you?
I would say it will resonate with me with the first one because I don't know if it's the young girl that's abused, if that could be her father or that could be someone representing to be older than her because he looks kind of older, or it could be a boyfriend. I resonate with the first one only because that's a woman that most times we women think we can be abusers. We could be physical abusers and emotional abusers, mental abusers. Where you tear down a man and looks like she's tearing down him and he's just putting his hands over his ears because he don't want to hear it.
Say that a little bit louder because I don't want us to skip over women being emotional abusers. Get with our mouths.
Yeah, women could be mental and physical and emotional abusers.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times we don't look at women as being abused, but 9 times out of 10 they are. And like I said, the first picture resonates with me because that's a woman yelling at a man. And most times we just think that, the yelling is a form of just yelling, but we don't know what she's saying to him, and that's why he's opening up his ears. Women, most people or men don't think about women being abusers because they're not physically hitting them, but it actually mental and emotional abuse is worse than physical abuse. It's a known fact. It's a statistic. And not saying that it's something better with physical abuse, but what it's saying is that mental and emotional abuse resonate longer than physical abuse. That's basically what I'm saying. That tearing down is what they do of how you form the person in their mind. And now, sometimes men that's not abusers can become abusers from being emotional and mental abused.
Yes, emotionally abused. I'm going to tell you something that I learned. Men do this, but women do this more often. And it is this: if they cannot become abusive to you, they will manipulate a situation to create hostility.
Exactly.
They will create hostility, and that is a very manipulative and interesting type of abuser. Now, I know, Sharmin, in the past you've called this narcissistic, and maybe it's narcissistic. I think that's a good name for it, but I think that is, for me,
it's controlling.
It is very controlling. It is a controlling spirit. In my mind, I'm thinking like a Jezebel Delilah kind of
I
spirit.
agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
I'm very aware of reactive abuse and how narcissists do things to make you overreact and respond. And they
Mm-hmm.
do things, they cause problems, create tension, get you upset, do whatever they can to make you lose your cool and act out. And so
Mm-hmm.
once you're losing it, then they sit back and call you crazy and tell everybody, look at her, look at the way she's behaving. But nobody realizes what the hidden triggers were that caused you to respond.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I'm very aware of.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people that are narcissists are often master manipulators. All
Mm-hmm.
of the red flags that we talk about for narcissists are the red flags for an illness called antisocial personality disorder. And
Mm-hmm.
this is where the sociopaths and the psychopaths and the truly violent among us reside. It is a rare diagnosis because these people are aware that there's something wrong with them. They don't want to be identified. They don't go to seek therapy. They're not interested in getting help. They're not the problem. Everybody else is the problem. They, there's a lot of that, and it is hard to try to battle it because they're master manipulators. They're very charming when they want to be. They know exactly how to paint a picture that they want to be seen. They they know how to get people on their side. They don't mind creating false stories and spreading lies and doing whatever they can to destroy you. It's whatever they can to remain in control and make you look bad. The worst thing an abuse victim can do is confront their abuser and try to call them out on their bad behavior,
Mm-hmm.
because that will just make the abuser behave worse. I remember in my in my marriage, before I served my ex with divorce papers, there was an argument we had, and I made a horrible mistake. I wish I'd never said it. He was having trouble at work. He was at home complaining to me about something, and I was just listening. I was just listening. And he said, "What do you think?" I said, "I think when our marriage ends, everybody will know exactly why."
Wow.
And the it was not 2 weeks later we had a work function for him, and I went to the work function, and instead of everybody loving me and treating me like I was an angel for putting up with this monster, which is the way people had treated me for years, suddenly everybody was looking at me like I had three heads and nobody wanted to be near me. As soon as I pointed out nobody's going to have a single doubt in their mind why we're divorced, he immediately went about spreading rumors and turning everybody against me. And I remember asking him, what have you said to these people that they're all suddenly treating me like this? And he
Mm-hmm.
looked at me and he said, "It's just the way husbands talk about their wives."
That's very nasty.
It was so nasty.
Sandra, um, wait a minute. Was it Reba or was it Sandra that said they knew about that Delilah Jezebel spirit?
Me. It
Okay,
was
Miss Me. Okay. Um,
Reba. I'm sorry.
okay, Miss Me. Okay, Reba. Speak to that Delilah Jezebel spirit. And the reason why I am saying that because it is so real. I want you to know that I want to remind our viewers that it is that spirit that caused Elijah to want to die. He had just um, had one of the best prophecies of his lifetime. And because Jezebel was chasing him, he wanted to die. He wanted to no longer be on this earth. And so but I'm pointing that out because that spirit is very, very strong.
That sounds like emotional abuse to me, for sure. Right?
For sure. You know what? Somebody yelled in Reba's house and it scared the tarnation out of her. Did you hear?
My sister-in-law just came in because her kids came back from vacation. She was happy. She don't know I'm
Oh,
downstairs recording, so
Oh,
I muted the phone. I'm sorry, guys.
that's okay.
you know what? You are fine, but no. If you can unmute, because I really want to hear what you have to say, because you seem like you had some insight on that kind of that spirit.
Okay, so what I learned about the Jezebel spirit when I was younger. It's pretty much controlling. It's
Mhm.
pretty much the mindset of, we want to say women, but it's a Jezebel spirit could be a man or a woman. Um,
Absolutely.
and the control of manipulation, what she was saying earlier, of making someone think one way and terrorizing them and making them feel like they wrong, or making someone feel like that you're the center and that everything got to be circled around you. And if they don't do it, it's going to be HEW hockey to pay. And so that's what the Jezebel spirit is pretty much about. But it's
Mhm.
still a form of abuse. So, I mean, just to sum it up in that way.
And I also want to speak to this because that particular spirit sometimes comes with words, sometimes it comes with fists, but this is what that spirit will do.
Mm-hmm.
After that spirit is exposed, it begins to act as if they're the victim.
Yep.
Hmm.
I'm victimized. You're
Hmm.
being mean to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody, everybody's doing something to me.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's very, I think that's very interesting. And that kind of spirit is very hard to navigate.
And I want to go back to something you said earlier, that Sharmin said earlier. And I want to talk about something since we on the point of teens.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of this stuff that we're learning about teens, and it will make me think about what Sandra was saying with her abuse. Some of this is learned behavior, okay? So
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
do is we become adults in children bodies. I mean, in adult bodies, and we're still them children. Those children, because of what we seen or heard. So just say no excuses, but to Sandra's, boyfriend at that time, it was something that he learned. That was something that he learned to
Exactly.
do,
And
and
I
just
think
to
it had, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. And just to talk about, Charmin situation, whatever, those are learned behaviors. And sometimes when you don't get the talk of the right way of the narcissism and a narcissist, you're watching your parents, or you're watching. And the reason why I said that is because in my personal experience, when I had to realize, and when I wrote my book, that my first abuse wasn't the relationship I was in, it was my mother. I had to learn that the or the narcissist, I can't say the word right, but came from what I seen. So it also came from the learned behavior of what I thought was normal, talking a certain way and being a
Yes.
certain way. And so yes, my mother raised me to be a strong woman. Yes, she did raise me to be an independent woman. Yes, she did raise me to be a verbal woman. But in certain aspects, she also raised me to be an angry woman. She also raised me to be an attackish woman. She also raised me to be a controlling woman. You get what I'm saying? So it's like you can have those great things, but then you got these things over here that can turn a whole person around and your whole personality change. So as teenagers, young adults, we are learned this behavior, taught this behavior, and we just turn into adults with these same behaviors, putting them on other people.
Excellent. I brought this comment up because this is basically the title of our show. But one of the things it says, but I thought this was love.
Right.
Yep.
No, but
But
I
like
thought,
I said before, it's because we don't really know what love is. We hadn't even learned to love ourselves, and we're talking about loving other people. And a lot of this is because of what society feels, how old you should be to do something, or how it should go. And just to give you an example, when my baby girl, I'm like you, Charmin, I've got two girls and one boy. When my baby daughter was in high school, she really didn't date. We had the discussion, I mean, in-depth conversation or whatever, and I told her, it's no hurry to date. I need you to determine who you are
Mm.
and what it is you want before you bring somebody else into this equation, and feelings are all over the place. So she really didn't date.
Mm.
And I actually had people come up to me and go, "Well, does Sam have a boyfriend?" And it was like, "No." "Well, when is she going to start dating?" "When she's ready." "Well, you don't
mhm.
think she's ready?" "Well, who's she's gonna go to the prom with?" "Herself, if
Okay.
whatever." I say she doesn't have to go with a boy. What rule is written that you've got to have a male date to go to the prom? Who
Um,
says you can't go to the prom and have a great time by yourself? And even if you do have a date, who says that date has to be somebody you're romantically interested in? Why can't it be a friend? Why can't it be a cousin? And it even got to the point where I had several people ask me, I know it's probably none of my business, but is Sam gay? No, my baby ain't gay. She's not a lesbian. I don't have anything against it. If she was, I'm still gonna love her the way that I love her now. But no, she's just chosen not to date. And because of things that I instilled in her because of my experiences,
mhm.
she probably had her first real boyfriend maybe as a sophomore in college, which was
Mm-hmm.
fine with me because my thing is, I felt she was more mature to handle a relationship as a sophomore in college because I could see her growth, I could see her maturity, the conversations we were having better than when she was 16.
Yeah, I agree.
So, a lot of dads say, oh, you can't date until you're 16. For some reason, 16 is that magical number. But have you prepared, mom, dad, or who's ever raising you, have you prepared them to date at 16?
Right.
And that's the problem. We're not preparing them. We're in a hurry for them to date, but we're not preparing them. We're not telling them what to look out for. I loved it when my husband would tell my daughter, let me tell you what you need to watch out for with some of these guys, because I was a guy. I hung with guys. Look for the I darn near cried the first time I heard him say something like that to my oldest daughter because I was saying certain things, but I was saying it from a woman's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
He could give it to him from a man's perspective. And that's the reason I say we have to prepare them.
You want to know what?
Absolutely. There's
Hold on,
there's
hold on, hold on. I just want to say this because I cannot skip over the boldness that somebody spoke into your child's life to give them a sexual identification and inquiry about their preference just because they did not see dating going
It
on. I
happens.
mean, that is deeply ingrained in our society
Yeah.
that this person cannot pursue being an individual first. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have it the same way if, you have young men. I've heard parents ask other parents, is he gay? What difference does it make when they start to date if we're not preparing them? That's what we need to concern ourselves with, helping them find their identity in who they are, what they are, before we try to engage them into a relationship where nobody knows who they are, what they want.
It was
no,
what troubled me is that your daughter was busy figuring out how to be one, and they were trying to force her into being two.
Exactly.
I think that's really important. How we prepare people, our children, to date. If I think about my personal experiences, I go back to elementary school and playing on the playground, and boys chasing me and hitting me and pulling my hair, and somebody telling me he just likes
I
you.
like you.
So, as a young child, I was seeing my dad beat my mom, and at school,
Mhm.
boys were beating me up too. And I just thought,
He just
love
like you.
is love is
Just like me.
painful.
Wow.
This must be what it's like for boys to like me. So as I got into bad relationships and they mistreated me, I thought this is just what relationships are. And whenever I would leave a relationship, I'm not ever doing this again. I'm not going to ever do this again. I have a long list of things I just won't put up with.
Right.
Right. And when I started hearing about the red flags and I started piecing together the bad behaviors of previous relationships, it was just such a huge light bulb for me. And so now when I see these red flag behaviors pop up in men, I would rather be alone.
Right.
Right. I had a situation pop up a year and a half ago where I met a man, and the instant attraction I felt to him was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It was unlike the butterflies in the stomach. It was unlike the warnings like that anything I'd ever seen. And I had no idea what it was, how to deal with it. It terrifies me. I've kept my distance from him because that one's got heartbreak written all over him. I don't want anything to do with it. right? For sure, if God wants a man in my life, he's going to plop a miraculous, spectacular one right in front of me, right? And he's not going to do any of this stupid stuff that makes me mad because God knows I ain't going to put up with it, right? And I would love to have some sort of healthy relationship, but I haven't healed enough in myself to trust myself enough to trust someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you said that. I like that you honestly you have accountability to say you
Right.
haven't healed in yourself, because a lot of times we put our unforgiveness and the healing that we didn't do on other people, and it'll make you just a worse person if you just jump into something that you're not ready for. So I agree with that.
And I heard myself today earlier with Coach Love in a different situation repeat a a dangerous theme that I have said to myself many times before throughout my life. Right,
Mhm.
something went wrong. How did this happen? Well, it's my own fault. I brought this on myself.
Right.
This is my own fault. I made this
Mm-hmm.
happen. The problem is me. The problem is always me. The problem has always been me. Right, and that's not the answer either.
Mhm.
No, so many people find themselves in a situation where they just beat themselves up over and over again, and it's self-defeating. It doesn't get you anywhere.
I want to talk
Right,
about a
Reba and I
tool.
had a conversation about this before. We have to start with our teens because if you think about it, if we don't start with them, then they become young adults and they
Mm-hmm.
still have those same issues. And then if we don't correct it when they're young adults, now they're full-fledged adults, and we have these situations where now we're getting married and we're corrupting another generation because if you have kids, now those kids are seeing your dysfunctional, your toxic, abusive relationship, and now they think that it's okay. So now they carry it on. So we've got to start with our teens.
I think it's got to start in elementary school,
I
right?
Oh
do
yeah,
too.
We
I
can't let
totally
them run
agree.
around hitting each other and saying, "Well, he
I
just
think
likes
so
you.
too.
He's hitting you because
I agree.
like like we have to." With all this stuff that's been going on the last couple of years that everybody's dealing with socially, all these changes that are taking place, all the calls for war that have taken place, I have personally felt like we don't want to go to war. We don't want to fight with each other. We really don't want that. If we wanted that, that would have already happened. I feel like we're all just a bunch of kids on a playground hitting each other because we like each other and we don't know how to communicate with each other and talk to each other. And if we could figure out how to have a decent conversation, we could probably solve the whole world's problems, in a week at least. But it definitely it's got to start with the kids. I love the fact that people are moving away from spanking because that just teaches kids to abuse each other, right? To try to
Yes.
have a conversation. And I did it. I spanked my kids. It was rare, but there were times when that was the only solution I had available to me,
I agree.
and it was the appropriate thing to do. I think that there was some great lessons that were given to me along the way. No more than one swat per year. You shouldn't be leaving marks. There's a lot of things that can happen there, but if we can find a way to get people to stop normalizing any type of abuse, where we can start finding better ways to resolve our problems and communicate with each other, I think the other generations will be better than we are.
Yeah.
You said a mouthful right there. Stop normalizing abuse. That's a beautiful statement.
Mhm.
100% beautiful. What I want to do for us now, and we are definitely will have more to say, but I want each of us to come up with one golden rule for a young teen to have, male or female. This is the first one that comes to mind for me: boundaries. And not a big
Mhm.
boundary. Give you someone that you have a romantic interest, or quite frankly a friend, give them a very small boundary. If they cannot respect the very small boundary, I can guarantee you they will not be able to respect the big boundary. But you give them this boundary early on in the friendship, relationship, courtship, whatever you want to call it, and you observe very closely um, how conscientious they are of that particular boundary. If they walk over the line, with impunity, that tells you a lot about them. If they barely notice the line, and kind of are careless with it, that tells you something about that person. But if they are very careful and respectful of that line, that tells you something also. Because when somebody is respectful and courteous with your feelings, then they can be respectful and courteous going forward within the confines of the actual relationship. But if you never create a boundary in the first place, you have nothing for them to respect.
I like that.
Amen. Well
Yeah,
said.
boundaries has to be the number one place to start for sure.
But you have to have it. You have to have it, and you need to have it early on before you fall in love, before you get entangled into a complete relationship, before you have involved yourself so heavily with someone where it is ridiculous for you to be pulled apart. So many people stay married because it feels absurd to detangle their situation.
Cheaper to keep her.
There you go. These days, it's cheaper to keep him.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Look,
Nothing is worth
alimony
my
cuts
peace.
both ways. Alimony
Exactly.
cuts both ways.
You
Right? The
got that
feminists
right.
fought for that for a reason, and we're just going to appreciate the wisdom that came with it.
I have
But
a
if I,
question. Just quick question. Do you believe men deserve alimony?
well, I mean, it depends on what the situation is. Who's the breadwinner? Where's the money come from? How long have they been together? It's the same calculation for alimony. It doesn't matter what the gender is, right?
I agree, but I just thought I would just put that right out there because a lot of men still think of alimony just as a woman thing.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly Clarkson's paying $200,000 a
She
month in
is.
alimony right now.
She is.
She married Reba McEntire's son, and it's my understanding um, his daddy did the same thing to Reba.
Really?
So yes, that's the way I understand that. Um, and so you know, I I don't know if it's just a woman thing. I think there's a lot of men right now cheering on Reba's son,
Yep.
Mhm. Mhm.
right? It's always interesting to me to watch what men get upset about and what they get happy about. Right? They're angry about a woman getting alimony, but they think this man getting alimony is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I agree. They do.
Right, it's just strange to me, everybody, we're all morally ambiguous. We can justify whatever we want to justify when we want to do it, and yeah, I would like to find a way to get people to get along, but alimony, if you didn't work and your other spouse was the breadwinner and you didn't do anything wrong and the marriage is over and you guys were together for however many years, then you're entitled to however many years of alimony it is. And good on you for finding a sugar mama. And is it just because I've been running around with sailors my whole life? They're all looking for a sugar mama.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. All right. So I'm just curious. That was pretty good. I'm curious who has their piece of advice that they want to make sure that a teen knows.
I
Mine
guess
would
my
be
piece of advice would be don't worry about getting into a relationship so early.
Nice.
Learn to love yourself, date
Mhm.
yourself. Because if you date yourself, you're going to determine what I like, what I don't like, what I want, what I'm willing to tolerate, and what I'm not willing to tolerate within myself.
Okay.
So if I'm not going to tolerate it from me, then why would I tolerate it from anyone else? So my thing would be don't worry about dating. Don't worry about society or your friends. Don't allow peer pressure to push you into what you think is the norm. But find yourself and take your time in determining when the right time for you to date. Maybe it is 16. Maybe you're more mature and maybe you can handle that type of relationship. But maybe You're not. And it may take you until you're 20 or 21, maybe older. Because who says what's a good date to enter into a relationship if you're not sure of yourself or the things that you want? You've got to know who you are. And so that would be my advice. Learn who you are and what it is you want before bringing another person into the equation.
Nice. So in school, relationships are encouraged, romantic relationships are encouraged just in real subtle ways,
Mhm.
really subtle ways. Do you think that we should stop that as a society?
I think we should stop putting pressure on them, yeah, to, this is the age to date, or, parents just picking an age out of the top of their heads. Most people I know, they tell their kids you can date when you're 16. I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's because that's when most kids get their driver's license or whatever. 16
Mm-hmm.
just seems to be that golden age. But who says everybody is ready at 16?
So how would you say, would you say you can date after you show me your own personal development, you know?
You took mine.
I never
Oh,
gave
I'm
an
You
age.
sorry.
took mine.
I'm
I never
sorry.
gave an age to my kids
You took the
as
right
far
one.
as dating.
We
It
think
was
alike.
more or less, we'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you think you are ready to get a boyfriend or you want to have a boyfriend, let's sit down and have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm about being real. There are things that I told my kids that people say, oh, they're too young, you shouldn't I want you to get the information and I want you to get it straight. So I'm going to be the one that gives you that information. I'm not relying on a school teacher. I'm not relying on a friend or anybody or your friends to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. I remember when my daughter, she started dating, and the first boy broke her heart, and she came
Mm.
home and she was, hey mom, you know he broke up with me and yada yada this and yada. And I'm just sitting there looking at her, and she's all heartbreak broken, and she's wanting to know, you know why he broke up with me. Well, my thing was, okay, did he have goals in life? Is he smart? What
Okay.
is he smart? And once we, just asking her a series of questions, and the tears dried up, and she was like, well, no, not really. I say, so what did you lose? Because a lot of girls want to go back, they want to fix it. So my thing was, what did he lose? She says, nothing. I said, come on, let's go to the store. We went to the store. I told her, I said, pick out a sympathy card. She looked at me, she said, who died? Don't worry about it. Just get the sympathy card. I stood there while she went getting the sympathy card. We got home. She says, Mom, here's your sympathy card. I say, no, baby, the sympathy card isn't for me. The sympathy card is for you to give to the guy tomorrow at school to let him know you're sorry for his loss, because he lost a good thing. And she said,
Good job, Mom.
so my
Good
thing
job,
was,
Mom.
I wanted to build up her self-esteem. I wanted to let her know, don't think nothing wrong with you because he broke up with you. Something wrong with him.
Mhm.
So, we have to build their self-esteem. And I told her, don't be trying to get another boyfriend. Think about this relationship. So, you have to have those real conversations. But no, it was his loss. Don't sit over
I
there
got
crying
it.
over him.
I, I love that sympathy card so much, and don't try to date again is excellent advice, and it's so much different than the advice my mother gave me, and I think it is spectacular. Um, like really, you don't get into another relationship again. Wait, be by yourself, date yourself, and the advice to the kids that I would give is don't give up your friends. Keep your friends, even not just as a teenager when you're getting into your first relationship. Don't make the other person your everything.
Right.
When you grow up and you become older and you get into a relationship, you men still need their guy friends and women still need their girlfriends. We need this community and this camaraderie together, the jokes that we tell each other, the self-esteem, the moral support we give each other. We need those things, and we should definitely be encouraging kids to make sure they keep a good group of friends and identify good friends, not frenemies.
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
said something there, Sharmin.
Like
Exactly.
help them identify who their real friends are, not just people looking to cause trouble for entertainment purposes.
Right.
There you go. Now I'm going to get Reba to unpack that idea that her and I shared. So Reba, go ahead and unpack that idea, girlfriend.
So mine was you took the words personal development. Try to get your personal development together. And I know that might be a big word for a teenager, but let them read the dictionary. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning kind of counter back what Saundra said. I was gonna bring up why I think personal development is important. Right now, well, my son is 13. He's going on 14 in this year. Since he was 9 or 10, I have instilled in him that one day, not a certain age, because I really don't believe in the 16 thing, but one day you're going to want to date. So right now, me and my son literally go on dates in the summertime every week. When it's summertime, he knows. And sometimes mommy put on a little character, and he has to open my door. And he literally he gets so used to it now. He's happy about it, so he picks the restaurants. Or when he see me stressed at home, sometimes he come to me and say, "Mommy, I want to go on a date this week." If we haven't been on a date or whatever. But it's so funny. Sometimes mommy put on characters, and mommy be like, "My son is named Corey. His nickname is CJ." And this is what I say. I'm like, "CJ, so for real, you ain't gonna do that to me, CJ?" And it's like I do that to him, and he be like, "Mama, could you stop?" But it's the interaction of
Right.
I was telling him, "You're gonna have girls chasing after you." My son is very handsome, but you're gonna have girls chasing after you, and I need you to understand that just because girls chasing after you, they're gonna be here. Get your personal development together. What you feel about yourself. Let's build your confidence up. Let's build your self-esteem up. I really feel like our first relationship is with our parents, whether you male or female. It's how you deal with your parents. Y'all ever heard your mom tell you, watch how a boy treat his mom, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
he gonna treat you? It's very, very true. To the point of
Mm-hmm.
fact, my husband idolizes his mother. You see what I'm saying? You know, he loves his mom. So it's very true though. And so I love the relationship that me and my son is building and have because I know my son will be a gentleman when it's time. He got a little girl that he talks to and play games with, and I be always asking questions right now. So what you and Rain talking about? What you and Ray we doing? I have to, joke with him because you want to still build that confidence in them, but you want them to come to you. I don't want him ever feeling like right now he comes to me about everything he feels. So I don't want him ever feeling like somebody in the street or one of his friends, if he
Right.
like a girl, that he has to go to them instead of coming to his mom. Same way for my daughter. I told him, when daddy can't do it, I want you to start buying her flowers when she get a little older. Just bring her own flowers. Because I remember my big brother, when my father died, my big brother took on and came and told me you don't have to ever worry about um missing your dad because I'll step in. He did. He stepped in as my dad. He's 11 years older than me. So he stepped in as my dad to the point of fact, he taught me about boys. He taught me about, don't listen to them boys that be telling you that to the point of fact, I lost my virginity when I was an adult like late. So it was just like I was out of high school and everything. It was just like, and I lost my virginity as an adult is only because my brother built those characters up in me that I was just like telling me I'm pretty. That didn't make me get butterflies. You get what I'm saying? Because like you said earlier, because you didn't hear that
Right.
I'm pretty. Rather you had a good a foundation at home. You didn't hear the I'm pretty. You go on the street and you hear that, and you like, oh, he said I'm pretty. No,
Exactly.
I don't want my
Mm-hmm.
son or my daughter feeling like just because somebody said they pretty that you got to open your legs. I hear that at home all the time. It was kind of that mindset that, okay, I know I'm pretty. You ain't got to tell me that. Not to a point of conceitedness, but confidence.
Right.
What else can you bring to the table? And so that's what mine would be: personal development. Let's instill in our kids that if they're going to date and have idea date one day, because my son knows mommy and daddy
Right.
ain't playing. But if you do want to come to me and be honest and say you're ready, my son knows how to treat a lady. He knows what he got to do. He know he got to open them doors, and I don't want to hear about nothing about. And don't ever let a woman put her hands on you. You don't put your hands on a woman. I'm teaching him all this now
Right.
because.
Good job, Mom.
I
Thank
love
you.
that idea of
And I
role
love
play.
that
They
because
learn
that's
this
the
stuff in the
same way
streets
my
faster than we
husband
were.
and I did. Valentine's Day, birthdays. He took our girls out. He
Mm-hmm.
showed them how a man's supposed to treat them. My son opened Carter and Reba. I know people look at him when they do that because they looked at my son. They're like, huh? Yes,
They
he
do.
opened
They
car
do.
doors. He pulled out
I
chairs
was
when we
standing at the
went
door,
out
and
to
he'd be
eat.
like,
Uh,
"Oh,
and it
that's
was amazing you
good,
said you had date night in the summertime because we
yeah."
really didn't go out during the weekdays. But in the
Mm-hmm.
summertime, my son was out. We had a standing Friday morning breakfast at IHOP. He loved IHOP.
Yep.
We would go to IHOP and we spend that whole day to get whatever it is you want to do today. This is your day every Friday. Um, I taught my son to cook, how to do his own laundry. Because my thing is, I don't want you to have to find somebody and this is what you want them to do for you.
Yep.
Yep.
They are a woman is not your maid, she's
That's
not
right.
your slave.
That's
You
right.
need to be able to do this. And I remember when my daughter-in-law got uh, pregnant
Mhm.
and she was having a baby. He was making all of these casseroles and everything, freezing them because he's in the military. And she turned around and she said, when I got there, after she had the baby, she was like, I didn't know he could cook. And she says, he's been doing all the laundry. I said, yeah, when he needs to, he can.
Mm-hmm.
But by the third day, I told him, I say, Mama gonna buy dinner for everybody because I'm about tired of casseroles. I say, but they
Ah,
good.
Mm-hmm.
but you was tired of casseroles. Okay,
I
I
was
have,
tired of
you know what?
casseroles.
I get my creativity on, and I just want to run this by you. I wonder if this would work with a young person, or quite frankly, older people, because the key thing that I have found when it comes to people who are trying to figure out what's wrong, is that they don't know how to pick the mate.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't know how to pick it. And
No.
so that is a skill within itself. So if
Mhm.
you the first things first, a young person needs to know that they don't know how to pick the mate. And in order to help them understand that, you take them to go pick out strange fruit. Okay?
Mm.
Because dating somebody, all them people are strange. You've never done this before. This is brand it's strange fruit. So, take them to go pick out a pineapple, and you let them pick out a whole bunch of bad pineapples, you know, and then maybe by lucky chance they pick out a sweet one. And you ask them, well, why is that sweet? Why was this one sweet and this one's nasty? And I don't know, because I don't know how to pick out a pineapple. I don't know the way that's done. You connect those two ideas together. Now, there are surefire ways that you can pick out a good watermelon, a good pineapple, but I like a pineapple because it's a little bit harder and it's kind of prickly, and you don't want to really be doing all that it takes to find out whether the pineapple is good or not. Okay. But that's the kind of work you have to put in order to find out if this person is good. Matter of fact, you got to do way more work than that. But if you're not willing to take the time and sacrifice that it takes out to pick out a fruit, then maybe you're not ready to pick out a mate.
Mm.
Now
No,
that's a good
absolutely.
analogy.
Yeah, it really is a good analogy.
I
Now,
like it.
one of the little tips that I picked up this year for trying to pick a date or a mate is to pay attention to the way they compliment you.
Mm.
Abusers have a technique they use
Mm.
where they compliment you and then they critique something about you immediately to see if you will allow them to do it.
Mm.
You look lovely today, but pearls aren't for you. And you'll be like, just get away from me. I don't ever want to talk to you again. Or another girl will be like, oh, but my pearls are so funny. Ha, ha, ha. And if she laughs at his critique, the abuser leans into her because he knows she will take his abuse. The women who immediately say, what's wrong with my pearls? Why are you saying something bad about me? I'm not going to put up with you. He
Mhm.
crossed a boundary with you, and you're not going to put up with his nonsense. So he's not going to waste his time on you. He's looking for the woman who's going to be okay and laugh about his insult.
Hmm.
You don't like my pearls, you better buy me some diamonds. But
That's
anyway,
right. That's right. I love it.
that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Okay, ladies, this has been juicy. This has
Mhm.
been juicy and good. Juicy and good. And I really do think we left moms, dads, daughters, sons with some basic things that they can look for, some
Yeah.
things that they can develop within conversation at the kitchen table. Because for me, honestly, these are kitchen table conversations. These are the things that we really should be gathering with our friends, our girlfriends, our guy friends, within our relationship, our kids, and coming close around the kitchen table and talking about in a serious kind of way.
Yeah.
We
I
really,
love
really
it.
awesome, family. Any last words? Any last words, girls?
Just how much I appreciate meeting you all, and I can't wait to hear more about you guys. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Same here, and
Thank you,
thank you,
Coach
Coach
Love, and
Love,
thank
for
you.
this platform, having us all on tonight.
Thank you, Coach Love.
That is all awesome. Please say the names of your books really fast. Sharmin,
Taming the Titta.
Reba,
A blessing in disguise.
Sandra.
Make it stop.
Awesome. You guys have a very good night. Thank you for watching, family.